After nearly 5 years, I was finally able to see Metallica live once again. And in all honesty, it was a very strange experience for me, as it did feel like I was watching a completely different band. Now, as those of you who follow me on Instagram know, because of living in Ukraine, I actually missed the past 4.5 years of Metallica's touring. And the last show before this year that I was able to witness was actually their 40th anniversary gig in San Francisco, so all the way back in 2021. But this year, I was finally able to witness the now longest tour this band has ever done, and the longest metal tour ever, M72, attending both of the gigs in Frankfurt, Germany for my birthday. So just keep in mind that everything that I'm going to be talking about is actually coming through the prism of a person who hasn't seen Metallica live for nearly 4.5 years. Although, of course, I did watch gazillion of their live performances online and did cover those extensively on this show. But as I always say, the coolest part about the M72 tour is the whole fact that the concert experience actually starts way before the concert actually begins, right at the Metallica Pop Up store. And here's the thing, I was actually lucky enough to be able to get in there fairly quickly, spending only 20 to 30 minutes waiting in line. But the day afterward, and for the next 3 days or so, the lines were simply mind-blowing, with people easily spending their 3 to 4 hours just to get into the store. And just running a little bit ahead of myself here, well, in my opinion, it actually was totally worth it.
Yep. Insanity.
The truth is that the selection of merch at the Metallica Pop Up store, at least in Frankfurt, was something like I've never seen before. And just for the record, in case you don't know me, I've attended gazillion concerts in my life. But here you actually had everything, from tour t-shirts and event-specific posters to mugs, pins, caps, and what in my opinion was the coolest thing about it, some vintage designs. With some of this channel subscribers, as far as I know, actually liking out and getting their hands on some of the designs that dated nearly 20 years back.
Check it out. The Metallica Saved My Life t-shirt. I think I gotta have to get it since I'm in that movie.
And of course, in addition to all that, you also have a pretty cool photo zone that actually differs from a city to a city. And, well, given the whole fact that Ride the Lightning is my absolute favorite Metallica record, always has been and always will be, I'm more than sure, well, I simply could not miss out on an opportunity to actually be a part of that iconic album cover. But the bottom line is, well, the pop-up store is actually a great indicator of why Metallica is so far ahead pretty much anybody else business-wise in the metal world. As having more than reasonably priced, well, according to the modern standards tickets, seeing the incredible variety of merch and its presentation at a Metallica pop-up store, well, it simply makes you want to spend several times more on it than you actually spent on the ticket. And especially at the pop-up store, since it does actually have a way better variety of merch than the venue. And yeah, despite having more than enough of Metallica stuff in my collection already, I wasn't really an exception. Yet, of course, the most important thing is the concert itself. And first of all, talking about the opening acts, well, I have to be honest with you guys, I completely missed Knocked Loose, but I did get a chance to see Gojira, Avatar, and Pantera. And here's the thing, last time I saw Gojira nearly 20 years ago in some small club opening for In Flames in Massachusetts. And I was really, and I mean like really looking forward to seeing them once again after their triumph at the French Olympics. And just to be fair, Gojira themselves delivered an incredible show. But there was one problem. The sound at that performance was simply unbearable. No, seriously, at some point it was very hard to even distinguish which song Gojira was playing, and I was extremely worried that the same thing will happen for the rest of the bands. Which, by the way, it didn't. And when it comes to Avatar, well, I never really cared that much about this band, although many of you metal pilgrims from around the world have been asking me to check them out for quite a while now, and in honesty, I did. But then I saw them last year opening for Iron Maiden, weirdly enough also in Frankfurt, and I was really intrigued by the showmanship and the performance itself. Yet, once again, it didn't really make me a fan. But then I saw them again this year, and I have to point out that I'm simply blown away by how much this band keeps on growing from a year to a year. And if I was just cautiously curious about Avatar when I was going into that venue, well, I left it being an absolute fan of this band. And from the video I managed to capture, well, it looks like I wasn't really the only one. But then came the most intriguing opening act of them all, the legendary Pantera. And here I actually have rather mixed feelings, and I don't want to hide it from you, because on one hand it was simply incredible to hear some of my favorite songs live and scream it from the top of my lungs alongside 80,000 crazy heavy metal fans. And of course seeing Phil and Rax alongside Zach and Charlie up on that stage was, well, simply incredible for me as a metal fan. But if I would have to complain about something, well, I have to point out that Phil's speeches in between the songs were, in my opinion, rather unnecessary. And especially the ones in which Phil was complaining about how many people around the world don't know much about Pantera. Well, Phil, there were 80,000 people on that stadium, and each and every one of them sang every freaking song alongside with you. So yeah, no matter what you may say, people do know about you, and even the younger generation. And then came Metallica. And here's the thing, I knew it would be emotional to see one of my favorite bands live finally after nearly a 5-year long break, but I couldn't even imagine how emotional it would be. And the truth is that hearing Ecstasy of Gold live once again simply broke me.
Yeah, me too.
I saw both of the nights from the pit. And first of all, I have to point out that the 360 degrees stage format that Metallica is practicing on the M72 looks and feels simply incredible, allowing the band to equally pay attention to each side of the crowd without having a huge screen behind them, and instead just several authentic screens that don't really take away from the show. And first time seeing Lars alongside his drum kit disappearing and then reappearing once again at a different side of the stage was actually pretty awesome. But at the same time, if we're being very honest, when you're in a pit, sometimes you actually do get a rather poor vision when the band is on the other side of the stage. And maybe for the future tours, Metallica would think about somehow lowering the stage itself so they would be a bit more visible to everyone in the crowd. But nevertheless, even that didn't really take away much from my personal experience. And for everyone who was sitting and not standing in the pit, which, let's be honest here, is the majority of fans, I'm more than sure, the stage is simply a blessing. But nevertheless, the most important thing that this stage setup allows Metallica to do is to make everyone in the crowd feel like they're a part of the family. And it all starts with the way this band walks up on that stage. As each and every night, James, Lars, Kirk, and Rob kick off the show by walking straight through the crowd, high-fiving everyone they see and trying to create this incredible connection between the crowd and the band. And overall, I have to say that this feeling of a connection, or rather of a Metallica family, is possibly the biggest surprise of all, as the entire Metallica show actually felt like a huge, massive, enormous get-together by a bunch of friends. And instead of trying to distance themselves from their fan base, like many other bands do, Metallica actually does everything they can to do the opposite and create a feeling of a real Metallica family, making you feel like, well, you're just exactly the same kind of dudes and friends who've gathered this night to sing their favorite songs together, and it just happened to be so that it was just these 4 guys that happened to have the instruments with them that night.
It's family.
And in all honesty, although Metallica of course did that before, I feel like this time around they've taken it to an absolutely different level. As attending a Metallica concert nowadays actually does feel like you're part of something bigger, even if you're just seeing them for the very first time. But going back to the concert itself. Now, I first saw Metallica back on their Death Magnetic tour, so sometime in 2009 in Boston, I think. And since then, I actually saw them gazillion times, attending pretty much every show I could. Pretty much every year. So I actually saw them during a bunch of different eras over the last couple of decades. And just like many Metallica fans, I saw James Hetfield going through, well, different stages as well. And so I have to point out that one of the biggest surprises for me personally, as a Metallica fan who hasn't seen this band since 2021, once again, in case you don't know, because I'm a Ukrainian living in Ukraine, and yes, I did have tickets for pretty much every one of the tours that happened afterwards, but I wasn't able to witness it for obvious reasons. But nevertheless, the biggest surprise for me personally was James Hetfield, and just how much fun he seems to be having on stage these days. Possibly more so than I've ever seen him do. And I have to say that this attitude, which for the record is also very, very contagious, does reflect in both the way he plays and the way he sings. Of course, for the better. And no, of course, technically speaking, no one was flawless both of those nights, with everyone, including James, Rob, Lars, and Kirk, of course, well, altering their songs here and there. But that doesn't bother me at all, because in my opinion, that is precisely the beauty of any live performance. As if I want a polished performance, well, I would just pop my vinyl on. And the real beauty and energy of a live gig is actually, in my opinion, in its perfect imperfections. Like this one, for example. Setlist-wise, there weren't any enormous surprises this year, with both of the night's setlist feeling like a career-spanning best-of compilation. And even though the tour is officially called the M72 Tour, the band actually performed just one song from their latest studio output each night. Yet other than Lux Eterna and 72 Seasons, the rest of the choices were no surprise to pretty much any Metallica fan. So I almost feel like there's no point of talking too much about it, yet there are still a couple of observations I simply have to share with you. And here I just have to point out just how much love Load and Reload era has gotten in front of. No, seriously, no matter what anyone may say about those albums, every time I hear a song from it coming up in a setlist, I see everyone singing the lyrics from those tunes at the top of their lungs alongside James Hetfield. And you know what? In my opinion, that actually does say something.
Yes, that's true.
And yes, I'm not only saying it because everyone knows how much I love Reload.
Give me fuel, give me fire, give me power till it's on.
Oh, and another album that has been getting some love on this tour, which I think is totally deserved, is of course Death Magnetic. Now, as I already mentioned, I first saw Metallica live on a tour in support of that record. And the truth is that since its release, I simply loved it from the very beginning until the very end. And to this very day, I actually believe that it is one of the most underrated and underappreciated Metallica records. Despite, of course, all of the flaws with its production, which, by the way, I do hope will be solved when the time comes for its reissue. And so, yeah, hearing those songs live was actually among the highlights of those concerts for me. So, was M72 worth seeing live? Absolutely yes! For pretty obvious reasons, many metalheads simply love to hate a band the more successful it gets. And yes, I'll be honest with you, getting prepared to finally see Metallica live after a nearly 5-year long break was actually a pretty scary experience, given the fact that it is one of my absolute favorite bands that means the world to me. And after finally seeing them live again, I actually do have a rather uncomfortable truth I have to share with everyone online. No matter what anyone may say, today in 2026, Metallica is still way ahead of pretty much anyone else in the music business. And not only thanks to its enormous production, the fact that, well, at least in my opinion, they actually sound much better today than they did even a decade ago, or all of the additional activities around the concerts, but because of the fact that Metallica's concerts in every city they go to are way more than just about music or even just about this band at this point. As 40 years after its inception, people still travel from all over the world to see this band live, not just to see four guys on stage, but to celebrate rock and roll, celebrate music, and celebrate life with thousands of like-minded friends from all around the world. And it's just incredible that nearly 45 years into their career, these guys still get the kicks out of everything they do. And along the road, they actually try to do something meaningful.
So beautiful, Frederick. Thank you so much. You fill up the heart of Metallica. Thank you. We love you.
But anyways, what about you? What do you personally think about AM72 tour, and have you or are you planning to see it live this year? Please let us know in the comments, as well as whether you agree with my statement that Metallica today actually sounds and looks better than it did several years ago. I'm actually really curious to find out. But most importantly, thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and we will prevail. Slava Ukraini!